Hey guys, I'm on a roll, and I'm loving this book, Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DeMillo, published by Candlewick Press. So I'm going to do chapter 8 too, here in my lovely porch with all my cool stuff. Okay, chapter 8. Winn-Dixie's bald spots started growing fur, and the fur that he had to begin with started looking shiny and healthy, and he didn't limp anymore. And you could tell that he was proud of looking so good, proud of not looking like a stray. I thought what he needed most was a collar and a leash, so I went to Gertrude's Pets, where there are fish and snakes and mice and lizards and gerbils and pet supplies, and I found a real handsome red leather collar with a matching leash. Winn-Dixie was not allowed to come inside the store. There was a big sign on the door that said, "No dogs allowed." So I held the collar and the leash up to the window, and Winn-Dixie, who was standing up on the other side of the window, pulled up his lips and showed his teeth and sneezed and wagged his tail, something just furious. So I knew he absolutely loved the leash and the collar combination, but it was very expensive. I decided to explain my situation to the man behind the counter. I said, I don't get a big enough allowance to afford something this fancy, but I love this leash and collar, and so does my dog, and I was thinking that maybe you could set me on an installment plan? Installment plan, the man said. "Gertrude!" somebody screamed in a real, irritated voice. I looked around. It was a parrot. She was sitting on top of one of the fish tanks looking at me. "An installment plan," I said, ignoring the parrot. Where I promise to give you my allowance every week and you can give me the leash and the collar now. I don't think we can do that," said the man. He shook his head. No, the owner, she wouldn't like that. He looked down the counter. He wouldn't look at me. He had thick black hair, and it was slicked back like Elvis Presley's. He had on a name tag that said Otis. "Or I could work for you," I said. "I could come in and sweep the floor and dust the shelves and take out the trash. I could do that." I looked around Gertrude's Pets. There was sand and sunflower shells and big dust bunnies all over the floor. I could tell it needed to be swept. Otis looked down the counter some more. "Gertrude!" the parrot screamed again. "I'm really trustworthy," I said. "I'm new in town, but my daddy's a preacher. He's the preacher at the Open Arms Baptist Church of Naomi, and so I'm real honest. But the only thing is, Winn-Dixie, my dog, he would have to come inside with me, because if we get separated for too long, he starts howling something terrible." "Gertrude doesn't like dogs," Otis said. "Is she the owner?" I said. "Yeah, no, he finally looked up. He pointed at the fish tank. "That Gertrude, the parrot. I named her after the owner." "Gertrude's a pretty bird," screamed Gertrude. "She might like Winn-Dixie," I told Otis. "Almost everybody does. Maybe he could come inside and meet her, and if the two of them got along, then I could have a job." "Maybe," Otis mumbled. He looked down at the counter again. So I went and opened the door, and Winn-Dixie came trotting inside the store. "Dog!" screamed Gertrude. "I know it," Otis told her. And then Gertrude got real quiet. She sat on the top of the fish tank and cocked her head from one side to the other, looking at Winn-Dixie, and Winn-Dixie stood and stared back at her. He didn't hardly move. He didn't wag his tail. He didn't smile. He didn't sneeze. He just stared at Gertrude, and she stared at him. And then she spread her wings out real far and flew and landed on top of Winn-Dixie's head. "Dog!" she croaked. Winn-Dixie wagged his tail just a little bit. And Otis said, "You can start on Monday." On the way out of Gertrude's Pets, I said to Winn-Dixie, "You are pretty good at making friends. You're better than anybody I've ever known. I bet if my mama knew you, she would think you were the best dog ever." Winn-Dixie smiled up at me, and I was smiling down at her, or at him, and so neither one of us was looking where we were going, and we almost bumped right into Sweetie Pie Thomas. She was standing there, sucking on the knuckle of her third finger, staring in the window of Gertrude's Pets. She took her finger out of her mouth and looked at me. Her eyes were all big and round. "Was that a bird sitting on top of your dog's head?" she asked. She had her hair tied up in a ponytail with a pink ribbon. But it wasn't much of a ponytail. It was mostly ribbon and a few strands of hair. "Yes," I told her. "I seen it," she said. She nodded her head and put her knuckle back in her mouth. Then she took it out real quick. "I seen that dog in church, too. He was catching a mouse. I want a dog just like it, but my mama won't let me get no dog. She says if I'm real good, I might get a goldfish or maybe one of them gerbils. That's what she said." Can I pet your dog?" "Sure," I told her. Sweetie Pie stroked Winn-Dixie's head so long and serious that his eyes drooped half closed and drool came out of the sides of his mouth. "I'm going to be 6 years old in September. I got to stop sucking on my knuckle once I'm 6, said Sweetie Pie. "I'm having a party. You want to come to my party? The theme is pink. Sure, I told her. Can this dog come? She asked. Well, you bet. And all of a sudden, I felt happy. I had a dog, I had a job, I had Miss Franny Block for a friend, and my first invitation to a party in Naomi. It didn't matter that it came from a 5-year-old and the party wasn't until September. I didn't feel so lonely anymore. Because of Winn-Dixie, Chapter 8, written by Kate DeMillo, published by Candlewick Publishing. See you later for Chapter 9.